This afternoon we're here in Tavares along beautiful Lake Eustis to have a conversation with Roy Carter, retired bandmaster. Roy, when did you decide to become a band director and why?
Well, I was on the road playing professionally and I decided I wanted to settle down, get married and have children, and you can't do that when you're traveling all over the country all the time playing. So I decided I would be a band director. So I went to Florida State and started as a beginner band student. And stayed there for 2 years. Then I had to have some money to continue school, so I went into the service and was lucky enough to get in special service, and I fronted the 16-piece band over in Europe and Asia, all over Japan, Korea, and we did shows for the servicemen on the front lines all the way back to Japan.
Well, thank you for your service. This being very close to Veterans Day, that's important. You began teaching in 1956. Where was that?
In the big city of Bushnell, Florida. They had one high school there, that 7 through 12, and that was the first job I was offered, so I went there. And it was really an education for me, having grown up in Jacksonville Beach and been playing professionally since I was 16. I got my union card, and I had played all over Jacksonville, all the clubs, and even some that I wouldn't mention to you.
Well, what sort of pay did you get for being a director in 1956?
$3,000, which included $500 for my band supplement.
Wow.
And I just couldn't hardly wait to get to the bank to spend it.
What special challenges did you encounter teaching in such a rural area?
Lack of facilities was was the main problem. We had vendors that came by selling us reeds and things of that nature to help the kids out, but we did not have instruments that we needed. We did have a farmer that bought me an oboe. He called a hobo because he didn't know the difference, and that was all right. And but we had the support was there. The people were great. It's just that they hadn't been told. No one had shown them what was needed, and I tried to do that.
What about pivotal moments along your way?
Well, there's so many of them. I had a pretty good sized band in Jacksonville at Ribault High School. I had been there. I opened the school in 1957. I was 1 year in Bushnell and went to Jacksonville. There were 5 high schools that were open, and I went up there, and I got the leftovers from all the bands that would feed to the school, because they couldn't make the high school band at their own school. They decided to transfer to Ribault. So I had the bottom part of the well, but you know, you don't give up on kids just because they don't play. You just teach them how to play. And the best thing to do is play. Well, we got to where we played so much that in the 3rd year we had 33 performances. 3 were on national television hookup. And I said, look, I didn't go into teaching to perform. I went in to teach kids how to play. So I decided to transfer to the junior high that they were building next door. And I had a lot of problems with the parents because they didn't want me to leave. And the superintendent made me write a letter to him requesting the transfer. But I did get transferred over there. And that spring, before I left, I took my first chair from each section and took them to all the elementary schools that were going to be feeding that junior high. And I took applications and showed the instruments to the kids, let them hear what they sounded like. And so that was the way I started the band the first year that we opened the school. And it was 7th and 8th grade, and I think it was 74 applications for drummers. And I explained to them that I did not have drummers in my band, I only had percussionists, and that they would have to play everything including the timpani, marimba, xylophone, and the whole works. Well, that eliminated quite a few of the would-be bangers.
What sort of words of wisdom or advice would you like to pass on to future directors?
Well, the future directors, if they would teach the kids from the very beginning to read the whole page, read all the accidents, read all the metric markings, read all the dynamic markings, and it's so important that they do that from the beginning, because that way they get accustomed to them and it becomes a ritual with them, that they automatically see what's on the page, not just notes. Notes, if you just read notes, you're not making music. You've got to have something to go with it to emphasize the flexibility of the music.
That's certainly good advice. What sort of importance would you put sight reading?
Oh, very important, very important. We sight read every day. My kids expected it. That was the first thing. As soon as we were warmed up, they sight read. Whether it be a march, an overture, or what, but they sight read every day. I used to go to borrow music from Andrew Jackson because we didn't have much of a library when I opened Ribault. And I'd go over to Joe Johnson, I'd borrow a file drawer full of music and carry it in a box back. And when I got through reading all through that, I'd carry it back and get another drawer. So there's more than one way. If you haven't got money to buy the music with, borrow it. Just be sure you take good care of it and all the parts are back, because it really used to irritate me when somebody would borrow one of mine and a part was missing. And be sure that you learn to read a full score. So many people don't read. I had a young man come here over a year ago and said he was having a problem with rhythmic problem, and I said, well, let me see your score. Well, he handed me a condensed score. I said, son, this is no score. This is just something to conduct from when you're doing a concert. But you want the whole score. You want to find out what parts are intermingling with each other and how they fit together. So he comes back the next week with the full score. I go through and I mark all, I say, these all match. What you want to do is you want to have a sectional rehearsal with just the people that are playing this pattern. If they get this pattern together, the rest of it will fall into shape. And he came back and he says, you know, that worked. I said, I thought it would, by George.
Is there one thing about your personal character that you would say enabled you to achieve your high level of musical excellence with your groups over the years?
Well, I tell you what, I always loved my kids. When I was on the podium, I was the czar, I guess is a good word to put it. Off the podium, I didn't have any secrets from them, and they didn't have any from me. We were just one big happy family. But I tell you, it got pretty hectic when I had 300 and 400 in the program. And that really gets to be a heck of a problem in remembering all their names.
What concepts beyond music did you try to instill in your students? They were fine musicians, but what else were your goals?
Most important part of it was the fact that you have to work together in everything you do, not just in band. If you've got a black sheep in the third clarinet section, you've got to correct that black sheep in the third clarinet section. And that same black sheep will go out and understand that what they work with other people and how they work with other people will eventually pay off for them. So it's a mutual understanding that no matter what you do, you've got to work together. And I felt that was an important thing to teach them as band students and as human beings.
Mm-hmm. I know you to be a highly moral person and a very friendly person. How much do you think the networking of FBA and Phi Beta Mu has assisted you?
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Because in the old days, I knew every band director in the state of Florida. I was on the board for 7, 8 years, chairman of the Sight Reading Committee for 6. I had friends. In fact, I was district chairman for 3 districts and never moved. Back when the old District 6 met from Live Oak all the way to Pensacola. Then I was in District 5, which went from just east of whatever it was, down through Gainesville, Orlando, over to the coast to Daytona and back. I ran a contest one year with 50 judges, 3 sites for sight reading, 3 sites for concert. The first band went on the field at 6 o'clock. The last one cleared the field at 2 in the morning. And it was cold. At Fernandina Beach with old Bud Hill, one of the fine band directors the state ever had. And Bud was fortunate enough to try to get some blankets and some coats for us to wear, because the judges were absolutely freezing up in the press box. But it was big, you know, in those days, and of course you knew everybody. And I used to work in the summers at FSU trying to help work with the summer band camp, and every afternoon at 4 o'clock, this was a standing date I had with Oliver Hobbs. Be in his office at 4 o'clock every afternoon. Why do you want me there, Oliver? I want you to go for a ride with me. So as soon as we get outside of town, Oliver would reach in his briefcase and pull out a score. He'd lay it on the steering wheel, and he'd say, now tell me whether I need to turn right or left when we get down here, and I'm going to study my score. And I'd say, you know, you ain't looking to make me an old man, and you're going to kill me like this. But we would drive for about an hour, and he'd study scores. And I'd tell him to go around this corner, you know, take this corner. Well, what was so funny was when we got through, Oliver was so loved in that town that wherever we stopped by a restaurant, we'd go in and have supper. He'd get the ticket, take it up to the guy behind the cash register, or the lady behind the cash register. She'd tear it up, throw it in the trash, and we'd be on our way. I don't remember ever seeing Oliver pay for a dinner for both of us.
What did you do during your career to keep your edge, to keep that passion flowing?
Well, I used to try to push my kids a little hard, I guess, but I wanted them to play more difficult music than they should play. I'll tell you the truth. I had a situation one time where I wanted to play a grade 4 with an 8th grade band at contest. Now, I was told by Bill Swore that he knew I was nuts, but that was even worse, to try to play the overture to the Meister Singers. And I said, but Bill, it can be done. And I started working with my kids. Now, I want to tell you this. Some people start working for contests in October. If I can't get all 3 tunes ready in 1 month, there's something wrong with my tune selection. So, I started working on that the Meister Singers, and it was a grade 4, I remember distinctly. And I couldn't get one section really like I wanted it. And here I am confessing to breaking a rule of the FBA after I supported it for over 60 years now. I went back and we had orchestra in our school. And this particular part was scored for the euphoniums, 3rd trombones, baritone sax, contrabass clarinet, and tuba. Well, I still couldn't get it the way I wanted, so I went back to the orchestra director and I said, let me have your 4 cellos. I rewrote the part, and in those days, the curtains opened and the band was already on the stage. It didn't, all this commotion of moving chairs and jump. When we went into to warm up, as soon as we had the warm up started properly, percussion section was excused to go to the stage and be ready to set the chairs, and they had their layout of the stage and all. And as soon as the other band cleared the stage, they set up, the percussionists was all set up, everything was set up. So the band would march right in, sit down in their chairs, put their folders on the stands, and then the curtains would open. So I had it fixed where they couldn't see my 4 cellos sitting behind the curtain. So I got to that part and it went very well. I was real pleased with it. Well, at that time, I was just waiting to hear the comments that I was going to get. So I walked into after sight reading, I walked into the auditorium, and Chuck Ullery came running back to me and he says, "What did you do in the middle of that thing? I can't figure out what you did." Well, Harold Bachman was sitting there. Now Harold was known to saying it pretty straight to people at times. In fact, I've heard him say some things that I probably wouldn't try to say to anybody because they're probably going to kill me. But he said, "I know what you did, and you know that's illegal." I said, "Where does it say it's illegal? Show it to me in the book." And Charlie Quamby came over, and he said, "I know what you did." And I said, "Okay. Now you two know what I did, don't tell him." So I told Chuck Ullery I'd tell him what I did one day, but he passed away before I ever got a chance to tell him. And speaking of Charlie Quamby, we were judging together one time, and Jack Williams, the three of us were doing concert. And I won't name the district, but after the band we did orchestras on Thursday, junior and middle schools on Friday, and senior high schools all day Saturday. So we were pretty tired. We went in to get our checks, and the chairman of the district had a junior high orchestra and a junior high band. And he said, "You guys will never judge in the state of Florida again." And I looked at Charlie and I said, "My goodness, Charlie, we must have upset that feller." He said, "Yeah, all three of you gave me threes." I said, "I didn't give you a damn thing." I said, "All I did was wrote down what I heard." Remember, when you hire a judge, you're asking their opinion. And they give you your opinion. If you don't want their opinion, don't ask them. And that really happened. And I won't tell you what district it was in. But Charlie and I judged the next 3 years together in that same district.
Oh. Now that you're retired.
Oh, yeah.
What do you do to keep the creative juices flowing?
Well, I waste a lot of money. I'll tell you, I have just finished, I have a huge collection of LPs, and I just finished doing a Rafael Mendez copy from LP, an old 10-inch LP where he played 8 of his most famous solos on it, and put it on DVD. And I have, it's out of date as far as its copyright and all, so it's not illegal for me to do it. So I have sent 2 or 3 out to former students of mine who are still band directing, and they appreciate getting little things in. And I'll tell you what I did do. I had one of my students was band director at University of Northern Iowa, and every concert he would send me the tape or the disc of the thing and ask for me to analyze it and give him comments on it. So even though I don't get out and move around much, although I have volunteered several times to help some people, I do keep up with what's going on in the world that way. And as I say, I have several students that are band directors and several students that are teachers in the state that are active, and then they keep in contact with me about things going on. So I'm not totally out of it. I will probably be more into it now that I lost my wife 6 months ago, because I have so little to do. So I just
very sorry for your loss.
Just like I say, I stay busy with it. I listen a lot. I listen a lot. I've got a beautiful surround sound system upstairs in my playroom that I go up and put on a Beethoven symphony and you know, and sit back and just kind of close my eyes and remember the good stuff.
Well, since you started teaching in '56, and now you're talking about technology, what sort of changes in technology have you seen? Oh,
unbelievable, unbelievable. That's what's funny is now you read in the paper where people are going back to the old LPs, the vinyls. They say they have better quality than the DVDs, CDs. So I have quite a collection of both. I probably have 200 or 300 CDs of former students' bands that they've sent me, and I listen to a lot of them, and I listen to a lot of good jazz. I have one of my former students is still playing, active, you know, well, on the road, active. And then I have some that I inherited from other places and other people's bands that are still that are top of the line musicians that still like to play. I remember just about 3 years ago, I happened to be in West Palm Beach taking my wife down to see a physician down there. And I called Wayne Miller, who had been one of my students. I started him on trumpet in '65. And he calls me, I call him, I said, Wayne, would you and Nancy have dinner with us? I'm going to be in town such and such a night. And he says, I can't do that because I'm having a concert. Could you manage to come by and do the concert? I'd love to, wouldn't miss it. So my son and his wife, the four of us, went to the concert after dinner, and he charged $10 to get in the door for a concert, and every seat was taken, and the people were standing down the side aisles. Packed house every concert he played. And I looked at the program, and he had dedicated the program to me, which shocked me. And he introduced me at the last number, and he said, I had to show the old man, if you'll pardon the expression, what I could do in a week, because I know how he used to work. And he did the finale from the Fourth Symphony of Tchaikovsky. And he said, we only worked on it for a week. And I want to tell you, he played it. He played it. And I was just flabbergasted, because I used to tell him that wasting time, you know, going over and over and over things, if you practice at home, you won't have to waste time in the band room going over it. So everybody practices at home, and then we put it together. Well, he put that thing together in a week, and I want to tell you, he did a job. Just absolutely thrilled me to see that boy do such an outstanding job. He's retired now. You know, it's pretty bad when you start your own students are retired. I even judged one of my former captain of the band's granddaughter one time. Now that shows you I've been judging too long.
Now, according to Claire Baggerly, that just makes you the great grand director.
Oh, is that what it
Yes.
is? I haven't seen Claire in years. And Tink, I haven't seen him in a long time. Known Tink for 50 years, better than 50 years.
Well, we have time for just one short story that might sum up.
Well, let's see if I've got a short story on here. I don't know.
I know you've got one in your heart.
I've got several in my heart, but I was very fortunate. I really was. That I grew up in the time I grew up, because I got to know some of the finest band directors and musicians that the world will have ever seen. When when the guys would come to my house, I roomed with Cliff Williams for a week in Chicago. Cliff used to come up and direct my band. He'd come up and bring some stuff he was writing, and he would say, I want to see how this goes. Now I'm talking about a ninth grade band. And I said, this is for like class A. And he says, that's all right, your band can read it, because they can read. Reading is very important, see? And I go back to the old days when we did everything in one day. Concert, sight reading, marching, solos and ensembles. It went home. It was over with. And then they started fighting about wanting to get the marching moved to the football season, because they didn't want to fool with the march. Well, you know, I don't know that marching is that important in the first place. But if it was scheduled, then we did it. I'm a conformist, I guess, to the rules. But I did cheat that one time. I put 4 cellos behind the curtain until they never saw them. And and the band played very well. Of grade 4 and 8th grade band, and even Charlie admitted it. But anyway, I thank you for asking me to do this. I really have enjoyed it. And it's good to see you again, Tina.
This is just such a delightful venue, and I've enjoyed our afternoon together. So let's wave bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. And all you band directors that from the past, good luck to you. I hope you live as long as I did.
Thank you.